It was the hardest thing I probably have ever done. And so watching it back, it was like opening up the wound again.
So Cody, obviously I have to assume that like you've been asked to do other shows before. What made you say yes to the Traitors?
The concept of the Traitors was fascinating to me. I loved it. I'd been asked to do another show right before that I turned down. And then this show came and presented itself. And if I'm being 100% honest, I said no initially because I'm just not, I don't know, like the whole circuit of like you do a show, it's a lot. It's exhausting. It's mentally taxing. It's tough in your real life to leave for any period. So it's hard to hold maybe like a job where you're in the office or you're working for a company. It's like you have to really find ways to work for yourself to just be at the beck and call of these shows. So it was really the concept that I loved about Traitors, because it was something that it reminded me of a game that I had fun playing. It's a game called Among Us where there's, you got to try to figure out somebody, but it's obviously way more lighthearted. But I really like that. And the fact that it was the first time this show was going to be streaming in the US really grabbed my attention, because I was like, oh, I want to be a part of something that's new and that could be really cool. I don't know what would come out of that. So that all that stuff weighed heavily on my decision to ultimately come to grips with going.
Yeah. I know you originally said you wanted to be a traitor. Why did you want to be a traitor, I guess, if you did?
Because it felt like I, to be honest, would have had more control of my own game. And so understanding the concept of this game, it almost was like, all right, if I want to have an opportunity to win, the best opportunity to win was probably being a traitor. Because as a faithful, if you maybe are getting a little bit too close to who a traitor is, or maybe you're kind of onto them, or maybe you're on other traitors that they're really close with, I felt like that would kind of destroy my game. And I really wanted to play the game. And so I was like, ooh, I really want to be a traitor, because I felt like I would have control of my own destiny and kind of how the trajectory of the game went. Because this isn't a game where you can go and you can win a competition. You could form alliances. And then if your alliance wins a competition, you're kind of safe, but maybe not really. I was kind of trying to wrap my head around how I can equate this to Big Brother. And then it was being a traitor just seemed like that. I didn't realize how much the role of being a traitor was going to weigh on me. I just could never have calculated that.
It's interesting because like I know it's a game, it's a game, but like it seemed, and tell me if I'm wrong, it seemed like people were literally like, the traitors are terrible people and like we got to get rid of them. And I'm like, whoa, This is a game. Like
it started. And so all of that stuff, and like there's people that can wrap their head around it's just a game, like relax. Like I guess I don't know what it was when that stuff was being said. Like it was said right away, right when the first person that we decided to murder goes home. Obviously there's what they show, but then there's so much more. And the so much more aspect was just like everybody like destroying the traitors morally.
Yeah, that's wild.
And yeah, it was really hard for me to like sit there and kind of see that, because I'm like, again, it goes into, am I going to be perceived that way when people watch the show? Are these people going to hold this against me after the show? Like these are people that I'm really starting to bond with. And because when you're in these heightened situations, you bond very quickly. It's not like the real world where you're like, oh, I had this conversation with this person. I feel like we bonded. Maybe that turns into a friendship. These shows, you're almost forced to try to bond, and you're forced to share experiences to try to really connect with people. And those experiences that you share are pretty deep experiences. And so that started weighing on me. I was like, oh my God, is this how the show is going to go? Where these people who are sharing information with me, like intimate information, are now going to think that I was using that against them. It was so brutal right from the start as a traitor, because so much more was weighing on me than the game. The game wasn't weighing on me. I guess it was the game. It was what I had to do in the game as a traitor. And then all those conversations that were really weighing on me heavily. It was really, really difficult.
It's interesting what you said about like having more control, because you're right. Like at some point they can just murder you and you can't plead your case. There's nothing you can do. So and obviously you played Big Brother, you've won before. Did you go in with a strategy, or were you like, let me adapt as I go? Or did you plan, like before you left for the show, were you thinking of anything? Or were you like, let me just see how it is?
Yeah. So my only strategy really before going into this one, because it was a new show that although I understood the concept, nobody's ever played it. And we can only watch, when there was only the Dutch season and that was it. And so the strategy for me was really just go in and, try to be as social as possible and build relationships. That's like my strategy for Big Brother. When I've gone, it's like, don't go and try to be this strategic mastermind right away. Just go in, form relationships, let those carry you until you get your feet underneath you, and then start strategically mapping out how you want to move forward. So really going into it, it was just be social, be there, connect with people, make them like you. And hopefully you're a traitor. And then all you need to do is make those people like you so that you don't go home at the round table. Because I didn't know what my role was going to be. I had no idea. None of us did. And so you go in and you're like, well, this would be my strategy as a traitor. This will be my strategy as a faithful. And when I'm thinking out those strategies, I was like, man, being a faithful feels like I just am leaving my chance to win in other people's hands. And so that's what was making me rationalize like, ooh, I really want to be a traitor. Not like that I really, like, I wasn't thinking, ooh, I want to be a traitor and backstab people and, it's going to be great. Like my game in Big Brother wasn't even like that. I didn't just backstab people because it was the game of Big Brother, which I think is a lot of times like the misconception of Big Brother, because not everybody that wins it has to be this like grueling, backstabbing, lying, manipulative person. Like now people can say I'm manipulative and a liar just because I won Big Brother, but I don't know that anybody that played with me really feels like I'm a manipulator and I'm a liar. And so my strategy was kind of just similar to Big Brother, and then adjust. Always adjust. You have to be able to adjust on your feet, or else you don't win these games. You don't win these games if you can't adjust. So I knew like that was my baseline, and then I was going to figure it out when I got there.
Okay. Let's talk about Cirie. I know she mentioned to me that like she kind of saw you on the plane, and like she's obviously a fan of Big Brother and knows you. You weren't super aware of her. Did anyone like be like, oh, that's Cirie, like she's pretty hardcore? Or were you kind of like
so somebody Shelby, who's a huge fan of, huge fan. She watches Big Brother, she watches Survivor. So she was aware. She was aware of all of us. And so I connected well with Shelby because I felt, again, there was like, you're aware from playing Big Brother. I mean, if you play Big Brother well, you're aware of like subtle body languages, how people talk to you. Do they talk to you where it's like really engaging, or do they talk to you with like a puzzled look of, I don't know about you just yet. And Shelby was one that was like that when she finally opened up, because I was like, okay, Shelby is somebody that obviously is hesitant about me because she knows me from Big Brother. So let me try to get close with Shelby. And one of the things she had said to me was like, Cirie is so cutthroat. She'll stab you in the back. She doesn't care. She has people that she's loyal to, and then you could be the person that she's the most loyal to. And if something happens, she'll backstab you. So I was like, great, perfect, good to know. I was like, so again, in my head, it was, okay, don't give Cirie a reason to doubt, but no, Cirie will backstab you. She will 100% backstab you. And then I have to make the decision myself. Like, am I willing to backstab Cirie? Am I willing to backstab other traitors? Or is that not going to be a part of my game? At what time? What time is the right time? Get a pulse of the house. Like, you get a pulse of the house and they're all saying, oh my God, I trust Cirie with my life. You can't just go ahead and be like, yeah, I think Cirie's a traitor. Yeah. So it's like, it's a juggling act that's really difficult to kind of play when you're trying to do that throughout the house with a bunch of different people. So I had never watched Cirie, but I got an understanding, and very quickly you understand, especially since you've played the games, you're like, oh, I know that type of player. I've seen that player before. So I know how to navigate that type of player, but now it's a different game. Like this game is different. Like it's, cause you're nervous. You have to always, everything has got to be calculated. With Big Brother, I would know. It's like, all right, there's going to be a moment where there's people that I'm close with that I can maybe have them do the dirty work versus me.
You could pull the numbers too.
You could pull the numbers. And it was really tough because in this game, I wasn't even myself right from the start. And it all started very early on after the first murder. it was like that weighing of everybody thinks you're a piece, like you're a low life, ultimately was like, I was like, man, this is not what I'm used to. Like, you don't make a decision in Big Brother and somebody goes home and everybody's like, man, oh man, that is horrible. How could they do that? Because like in Big Brother, there's a group of people that know ultimately the decision that's being made. So you're doing it together as a group. This didn't feel like that. And so all that was weighing, and it was like, it just was, I feel like genuinely it was written on my face. So many people after the fact were like, oh, everybody saw you struggling, but nobody really questioned you because you were likable. And then all of a sudden stuff started happening because I really started completely losing it. Like I was just completely losing it.
I feel like we could tell, like Big Brother fans could be like, you seemed uncomfortable. Like
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Could you, when you were watching it, were you like, wow, yeah, I was like not, I was really gone. Like,
oh yeah. But like, it was hard for me to watch this back. It was very difficult because like, I knew what I went through and that was really hard. Like it was the hardest thing I probably have ever done. And so watching it back, it was like opening up the wound again. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I looked like to the producers, to everybody in the house. I'm like, that's what I looked like. Like, what? Like there was one roundtable that I remember watching and like my face is just pale, flush. And I was like outside, like I was tan at that point. And so like the coloring was gone from my face. There's like a couple of things that I noticed, like nobody really knows this about me, but I have these like tics. They're like uncontrollable. And so I was seeing the tics on the show. And I was like, that you never saw it. All the times that you've seen me on Big Brother, all the episodes, is like, you didn't ever see this from me. Cause it never, the game was never like getting to me where like stuff was starting to unravel. And this, I was seeing it. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, dude, you are struggling bad. And so it was hard to watch. Like Christy didn't watch.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't like this. This is too much for me. She's like, it's too much. It's making me anxious. And seeing me, it was tough. It was tough on my parents. Like my dad watched and was like, dude, you were struggling bad. Like it was really hard to watch. So
interesting.
It's tough.
I mean, once your name is out there, I mean, a little bit like Big Brother too, but like, especially on this game, it seems like once your name's out there, like the ball's like rolling. So like Stephanie was like on you for like a while.
Yeah. Everybody was. In the beginning, they showed like a little clip of it. And everybody immediately, when they said traitors, the first person that everybody mentioned was Cody is a perfect traitor. This is what he does. He knows how to do it. Has anybody seen him play Big Brother? Like, this is what he can do. He can be a traitor. And again, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So like everybody had like one eye on me from the start. And it was like, I had to play flawless in order to get through that as a traitor. Yeah. Especially because it was weighing on me. So every day I was like, all right, put your face on, like, get ready to go. Even though every day was like miserable for me to be like, all right, I got to get up and do this again. I was like, holy crap. How are people going to react when somebody doesn't walk in? It was like, it was a lot.
Act essentially. It's not easy. Well, talk to me about, because a lot of people point to what you said to Kyle about Ryan, and Kyle, like, I guess, were you already not thinking straight at that point? Or did you have what were you going in, I guess, hoping there would happen?
That was me, like, complete. I just slipped up because I was just losing it. Because again, you see the night before the whole situation happens with Suri and I. At that point, like, I was done. I was like, I don't want to play. Because now at that point, for me, it was every person that we're sending home, I'm like connecting with. Well, like Reza, I hadn't gotten a chance to, it was early on. Then like Azra, not really, but like Bam was a really good guy. When that happened, it was like, everybody was like, why would they do that to such a good guy? And then some people started mentioning why, like what our rationale was. And I was like, okay, people kind of get, there is a game aspect to this. Then when the stuff happened with Ryan, which was just a complete blindside, I don't even know where it was rooted in. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. Let's clear the air. Have you met Ryan Lochte or spoken to him before?
Never spoke to him, never met him before. Don't know where I would have ran into Ryan Lochte, the Olympian. I mean, I guess people could maybe say because Ryan was on Big Brother All-Stars. I was like completely, I didn't even think of that. We're there, Ryan is talking, goes, I played Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother. I was like, oh, you did. I was like, what season was that? It was like the Tom Green season, I think. Like, I didn't even know. So like Brandy was on Celebrity Big Brother, had no idea of that either. We never talked about that. And so like Ryan and I had never, ever spoken. And so when that was thrown at me, immediately I was like, I was very defensive because I was like, why are you doing this? I was like, that's not true. And you're believing somebody outside of our turret. I was like, that's bizarre to me. I was like, and you're really like, you know, it's truth. So like, you're not asking me if I met Ryan, you're not asking like, Cody, you know, I really trust you. Or like, are you friends with Ryan? Cause I heard this and I don't want this to mess up our game. Cause at that point I would have been like, oh, absolutely not. It wouldn't have been hostile. It would have been like, oh, no, I'm not. Like, I'm building a relationship with him here, but whatever makes you feel comfortable, we can do. And it was just like, it was an attack and it happened immediately. Like the second we start talking, it goes to Sari when she finally could say something. And she just like came right at me. And I was like, you're not questioning. You're not trying to you're like attacking me right now. And to me, it was a manipulation strategy. I was like, she wants to get her way. This is her way of trying to do it. I was like, okay, you can have this one. But like at that point, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I don't want to work with either of you. I was like, and now I honestly, at that point, I was willing to like throw my game away. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm not working with either of you. Because Christian was like, I was already because Christian's name was coming up so early on. Mm-hmm. And everybody, we were always like putting him at bay. Yeah. He was like, if I wasn't a traitor, I literally would have been like, that kid's a traitor for sure.
Yeah.
Like I would have been like, I'll die on the sword trying to get him out. So I was like, we're protecting this guy who I'm not like, I wasn't really bonding with him in the house like I was bonding with some others. And then Sari, I had that bond with. And she, when she pulled out, I was like, I don't have loyalty to anybody now. And that's not the game that I play. I'm not like a on your own guy. Like, I don't feel like that's my strength. I don't thrive in that situation. And so the next day it was tough that night trying to like wrap my head around, okay, Ryan's gone now, who was somebody that I was very close with in the house. And it was like, I don't know what route to go here. Cause like the people that I was close with were like Ryan, Kyle, and Quentin. Quentin had always mentioned like he never had any, he was like, he had no suspicion of Sari. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I can't really go to Quentin about this to try to maybe flip. But I was like, you know, Kyle and Brandy had mentioned Christian and Sari. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, maybe that could be it. But like in that moment, I wasn't going to say anything. And it just kind of like, I think it was seeing everybody's reaction, being livid that Ryan was the one that got murdered. And like Kyle was the one sitting next to me. Because if it wasn't Kyle sitting next to me, I would have never said that to like somebody random. Mm-hmm. And it just it was like word vomit. It just kind of came out. And I was like, and right when I said it, everything about Kyle and his demeanor towards me completely changed. And I was like,
yep. You could see his face.
Like,
completely changed.
Oh, and, I was like, and it was obvious to me too. I'm like, bro, you're poker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you pick up on social cues. You've won Big Brother. Oh, yeah. So like you were probably like,
exactly. Yeah, the social cue aspect, like I understand that stuff. And so Kyle, I was like, he was talking to me freely about things. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And you can immediately, it's like, okay.
Interesting.
So then Kyle's name was kind of coming up. And honestly, that round table where it kind of cannibalized on him, I didn't know what I was going to do that night because I wasn't planning on voting for him. I was like, okay, now this is the route that we're going to go. But it was tough. I don't know why I did that, but I got to be honest with you. I think even if I didn't do that, I genuinely feel like it was coming my way sooner or later.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
it was coming my way.
Your name was out there early. So it was like, you kind of had to, well, talk to me about, so there's this perception of you, right? Some people, not everybody, that are like, oh, Cody's never had to deal with adversity on Big Brother. He just wins easily or whatever people say. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, look, Cody's finally dealing with adversity. Do you think that's true or fair? Because I'm just curious what you think about if people say things like that.
I think the first go round was different. I definitely didn't deal with adversity because I was not like I was not the player moving the pieces. I was like the huge social where every single person in the Big Brother house on 16 trusted me with their game. Mm-hmm. And so they always spoke freely and nobody held anything back from talking to me. I just would give that information to who I trusted the most. And that was Derek. He was like, okay, I'm getting this person's not really saying. And so like, he was really making decisions for himself, but ultimately it was benefiting the both of us because he also knew like, this information that's coming from Cody is key. The second time, anybody that says that I didn't deal with adversity just is clueless to how the show kind of works. The entire beginning part of the game, there was an entire group of the house that was trying to get Tyler, Nicole, and myself out.
Yeah.
Because it's a different game.
It is a different,
and
yeah.
you can't just there's competitions, there's other aspects. Like there was a point where right before Enzo was about to win the HOH, like it was between him and Kesar. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm mentally preparing myself in that situation. Kesar wins, I'm on the block. I got to figure that out. Kesar doesn't, we can try to go after them. Then the whole situation where like I pulled Davon and Kevin in the, when you win, you pick two people to compete and then one person's eliminated. That competition where it's like you keep pulling people up.
Yes.
That was a huge blunder. That was a huge blunder on my part. Because like Davon was also part of the group that was the other side of the house. Even though we were in an alliance together, she was always talking with Kesar and Ian and Janelle and Kevin, who was always mentioning my name in a negative light. And so it's like, when that happened, I didn't win the HOH that week. Christmas did. Like, did I have a great relationship with Christmas? No. So like now I have to navigate that game. Yeah. Like you don't just get to win. Like the aspect of not dealing with adversity gets kind of dialed down because I was able to win so many comps. Like 8 competition wins throughout a season is a lot. So yeah, stress was off my plate, but there's people who deal with adversity because they can't go into those competitions and win. So it's like the direct correlation to me never dealing with adversity was my own doing because of my social game, because of my competition wins, and because of the alliances that ultimately I was forming around me. So like, yeah, you can limit your adversity. And I think that just shows the kind of player that you're watching. It's not like, oh, he dealt with no adversity. What's adversity? Being on the block?
Yeah.
Like there's people that sit on the block all year and are in complete control of the game and are never even close to going home. Like, what adversity is sitting on the block if you're never even in doubt of going home? So it's like, how do you gauge what adversity is in the game? Because somebody that is so closely linked to so many people and has to navigate those relationships is probably the biggest stress factor that anybody can deal with on Big Brother. Because you can't slip up to this person who can then maybe say something to this person. You can't say something in this group that can leak to this group that'll mess up your relationships. But like even in Traitors, like so many people that are watching early on are like, oh my God, you're absolutely killing this game. I can't see how you don't win. And it's like, because there wasn't much adversity thrown my way other than the initial adversity of, oh, he could be a traitor. And then I like dialed that down. It wasn't until the game was I won't even say the game. It was the moral aspect was just weighing on me that I dealt with it. And it wasn't even that much. I wouldn't even say it was adversity because the adversity was Kyle. And I feel like it was a much longer conversation, but there were people that were questioning me that after that weren't questioning me. And if it wasn't for Sari and Christian kind of doing what they did, there would have been people where I would have been like, okay, we need to start murdering some of these people. And if that's how it goes, like, then I'm obviously going to take the brunt of it. But I wouldn't even say it was that much adversity. It was my own doing. Like I did it to myself.
I mean, it's tough. Like, I think the people that play this, like if there's a season 2 are maybe the morality is gone. Maybe there's, you know what I mean? Like, I think you totally. Played the first season. So it's like tough. But I knew once Sari said the Ryan thing and you guys looked at each other, I was like, they're cutting each other. Like there's no trust there.
Yeah. There was no more trust with her. And I was like, I'm done. And it's just at that point, Sari wasn't questioned by anybody because not a lot of people in the house watched Survivor and nobody really was like, oh, Sari could be a traitor. It was always Cody could be a traitor. Cody's definitely a traitor. Cody could be. I don't know if he is. I don't know. I have a good relationship. No, Cody could definitely. It was very easy for somebody to sway Cody as a traitor because initially everybody thought I could have been a traitor. So It's not like rocket science to get people to get on board to vote Cody out when Cody's walking into the room every day. Like Cody's he's this big brother manipulating backstabber. It was like, all right, you just needed like one domino to fall and the domino was Kyle. And then it gave like certain people like enough reason. Like Rachel's reasoning for me being a traitor was just because like I wasn't talking to her much.
Yeah, let's talk about Rachel. Like she said she wanted to work with you. What was your hesitation?
Oh, she did.
There?
My hesitation with Rachel was that I was like, I'm the only other Big Brother person. And I was like, I have to try to, I felt like there was going to be a point where I had to try to put it to her.
Okay.
And so I was like, if I'm super close to her, I was like, I'm not going to do that to her. I don't want to backstab her. And so it was kind of calculated where I was like, some people are mentioning Rachel's name. I don't want to get too close to her because I want to be able to jump on the bandwagon with the group to ultimately maybe try to vote her out at a round table. And so like doing that, which was like the strategy aspect was tough because now there's a ton of times where like Rachel and I had a conversation and then we didn't really have many more. And then all of a sudden stuff started happening. Rachel was demoralized that I could ever not have her back and I could ever like mention her name. And she was like, that was another thing that weighed on me because she brought so much more outside game and personal stuff into her. I was like, is she even gonna is she gonna see this as a game? Like she was like, I like love your family. Like I would never be able to do this to you. Like I would never say your name. I would always have your back. Like I know your father. I know your mother. I love your brother, like your family. And she was bringing all things into it that was making me be like, there was a conversation that we had where there were people around. And I was like, Rachel, you're making this so personal and it is so not personal. Like, please stop doing this. I was like, please stop making it personal. It's not personal. I was like, please understand. And there were people around and I was like, and she like wasn't getting it. And I was like, guys, can somebody else explain to her? And then it came up again at the round table. And I was like, God, Rach, like I was at the end of my wits with a lot of it. With a lot of it, I was just like, man, because there's a difference between like, okay, we're not on the same side. So if you win, you can come at me to, I got to try to convince people to make it seem like you're not on our team and I'm not on their team either. Like there was so much more manipulation that needed to happen that I'm just not capable of, to be 100% transparent. Like I know me, I know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I am not the manipulative, like I'm going to try to pull on your heartstrings and then I'm going to try to turn you against this person. And hey, it's just a game. So like you didn't see it. It's like, I didn't even play Big Brother that way. Big Brother was like, hey, listen, there's a group of people that I trust that have been protecting me and you're just not one of them. So I got to put you on the block and let the house decide. I'm sorry to do this to you and I feel bad.
Yeah.
Which that was in Big Brother. The thing that weighed on me the most was always nominations. And ultimately it was like, I could rationalize it because it was like, I know I won. You have a chance. You have a chance to win too, to keep yourself safe. And then if you're on the block on eviction night, like it's your relationships that you could have formed to help you stay, not really mine, which is like true and untrue. But this just had an element to it that as a traitor, I just didn't have it in me. I can admit it straight up. Like that was not the role for me at all.
Well, I want to talk about when you learned Cirie won. What was your reaction, I guess? Were you like, of course, or were you like surprised?
No, Cirie played the game exactly how you had to play. It's like a script. It's like, you know, when you watch these other shows, you try to emulate how other people play the game. Like Cirie went in, she didn't say anything. She barely said anything in the Traitors turret. She just would be like, okay, I'm going to observe. And that's obviously the rule when you go and play these shows. You don't want to be too reserved, but you don't want to be talking more than other people are talking because that always kind of draws attention. And Cirie did it masterfully. She was a beast. I didn't hold any resentment for her, even though in that situation, it seemed kind of like tense between the two of us. There was zero resentment. It was like, because after that, a lot of the questions coming my way were, are you going to turn on them? Like, do you think? And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, if they turn on me, that's how this game unfolds. I was like, but I'm not going to try to turn on them. I was like, you know, I'm just going to play the game. And so that's where like the whole dilemma happened with me. Cause I was like, morally, I don't think I can do that, but I probably should. And that's when I had the word vomit with Kyle. I was just like, I didn't know what I was kind of lost. But after that, I was like, hearing what other people were saying about her and hearing how people talked about her. And we're just talking about, nobody spoke about her as this cutthroat survivor player. They only spoke about her as this like nurturing, like very trustworthy person. And I was like, she is going to run through this game. I was like, there is not a chance that anybody detects her unless she falls apart and does something like me, like, which could happen at any moment. Like, you don't know how somebody's internally battling with this whole thing. Cirie always seemed calm and cool, but you just never know. But afterwards, I was like, it was going to be, she had the game and had to give it away. That's how it felt to me, at least.
I'm assuming you weren't shocked though, that like Christian didn't last. Like she cut him at some point.
No, but I also knew that Christian would ultimately do something to hurt himself as the numbers dwindled.
True.
Because he was doing it early on. And so I was like, there was a lot of us like protecting, like we would grab things that people would say and we would throw it out. Like, I know at least I was doing that. Like everybody would describe, well, Andy described Christian as a Labradoodle. And then all of a sudden I would start being like, I just feel like he just kind of is excited the whole game. He's kind of like a Labradoodle. And then all of a sudden people were talking, because then it was like, it was just spreading information to try to maybe dial it down. That wasn't my idea. It was just a way of trying to like kind of keep it at bay, where early on it could have been, yeah, he's being really weird.
Yeah.
There's got to be something about him. And we kind of dialed that down. But yeah, I knew it was only a matter of time because he was getting too big for his britches. He was like the, to me, Christian was a classic HOH, like power craving HOH, and not anything bad about that. That's something that most people fall into in Big Brother, and could be something that you fall into on Traitors if you become a traitor and you just feel like you have all the power, because you do. And so I just felt there was going to be a moment that he did something to himself, which he did. But Cirie was not, Cirie didn't peg me as that kind of player. Yeah. You know, she was going to be calculated. She was going to be methodical. She was going to pick and choose when she speaks. And when she speaks, she's going to have meaning behind it. She wasn't just going to talk to talk. And so that's why I felt like, okay, I don't see Cirie getting, but I was like, I feel like they're going to get Christian, and then she'll probably get herself all the way to the end.
What did you think about them recruiting Ari? And then obviously she cut him as well, but what did you think about Ari as a traitor?
It was an extremely calculated decision on their part. And it was a great decision, because throughout the house, nobody was mentioning Ari as a traitor. The only person that mentioned Ari, which again, this is so funny because they don't show everything. Like what I said to Kyle actually happened. It was me, Ryan, and the girl Amanda. I didn't make that up.
The girl Amanda, like, who disappeared, but
yeah. And so, and when it was going on, I didn't want to bring her into it, because I didn't want to be like, you know, like that's like the aspect of it where I don't want to try to rope somebody in and bring them down with me. And I also really connected with Amanda. So it was almost like when Kyle brought that up and was like the only person that could clear me from that is like, he did say that was Amanda. And I don't know whether Amanda remembered it. I don't know if, you know, because everything is just chaos in there. But I was like, the only person that could speak up and clear me of this would be her. And that may cause her to have an issue, because it's like, why are you getting his back?
Yep.
And it could have made her. So it's like, I didn't expect her to speak up. And so that wasn't something that I just made up out of nowhere. That was said. And again, it was like, I feel like Kyle took it with malice. Like Ryan would never say that about me. It was like, no, Ryan, it wasn't personal. He didn't bring up names personally.
I mean, he could have just been like, yeah.
And maybe Ryan didn't trust me like how I felt. Cause again, you know, which I think Ryan definitely trusted me, because we're still tight to this day. And so I think Ryan shared that with me because he did feel comfortable, but you know, there was no malintent, because Ryan was close with Kyle as well. Ryan was close with Ari. Like he wasn't mentioning them to be like, oh, I don't like them, they're traitors. He was just like, I don't know, maybe. And he mentioned it to me, and I was like, all right, dude. I was like, I guess, you know, I don't know where your rationale is for that, but sure. And he might've just been throwing names at the wall just to have a conversation. So it was like, when Kyle took that as like, Ryan would never say that about me, I was like, well, he did. Like, I didn't make that up. That's not a lie. It's so funny because I haven't even mentioned it, because like I don't care to. Like I haven't even brought it up to Ryan to be like, bro, do you remember saying that to me? Because it's like, what purpose does that bring to any of this? Like
he might not even remember. Like
he might not even remember. Like there's some stuff that after Big Brother is done, it's like, do you remember you said this? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing, like there's no malintent with mentioning somebody, because we're playing a game to try to figure them out. Right. And it's like, so when that whole ordeal happened, I was like, dude, you are blowing this way out of proportion. But again, it was like, I should have never said it. But it's so funny. I just have never brought it up to Ryan to be like, do you remember saying that to me? Because I know exactly where we were, at the bottom of the staircase, in between, like we were right in front of the library room. Like it's not like a fake thing that happened, but it was also like, that information served no purpose. Like after the fact, when I said it, I was like, why did you even say that? Like that doesn't have a lot of purpose. I was trying to rationalize. Yeah. Like I was trying to rationalize the strategy of it after the fact. But like when I said it, it was like word vomit. I had no idea why I shared it. I was like, maybe I'll try to get close with Kyle here. It just word vomited out. Because in that moment, Kyle came in and was like, damn, I can't believe they did that to Ryan. And I was like, I know, man. And I was like really pissed off, as in like, I know, I can't believe we did that to Ryan.
Yeah.
So like he was pissed and I was pissed because like Ryan, we were close. But it was so funny when Kyle like took that as like Ryan would never say that about me. I was like, dude, he's not saying that you're like abusive. Like he's trying to find
we're
a traitor.
best friends. We never.
Yeah.
Oh
Which
God.
It ends up happening. Like Stephanie kind of says something about Suri.
Yep. Yeah,
and like Suri took it personally, and it's like, I don't know. It's just like not personal. It's just not.
I mean, also, yeah, when you're in there, like, I don't know, it's easy to slip up because you want to talk to like be like social, and I don't know. I would not be good at this game. So
well, there was something that Rachel said to me that I could have gotten people behind sending Rachel out, but I just didn't even think of it. She said something like, along the lines of what ultimately was an issue for her about it just being a game. And like, I would understand, just so I would understand. And I brought that up and Ari was like, wait a minute, why didn't you tell me that before? Because I felt like Ari was kind of like, wait a minute. Because a lot of people were just looking for somebody to nudge them in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Most people weren't trying to figure it out. And so I was like, but I wasn't thinking straight. I just wasn't. Like my head was scrambled eggs for this game right from the first murder on. I was like, it was like my lifeline was just like dripping out.
Also, like a lot of the faithfuls were not playing really well. So like you weren't dealing with necessarily people, like you said, they were playing a little personally and not strategically. So if you're talking in the Big Brother house with everyone's trying to be strategic, it might be a little easier, but because if people are just playing, I'm just here having fun, it's like, okay, I can't talk strategy with you.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a lot of people were trying. I just think that nobody could see through the personal aspect because, and I'm not talking about like personal in a negative way. I'm talking about the personal aspect of just because somebody makes you feel good doesn't mean that they're a faithful.
Right.
Like there's a lot of majority of the house are faithfuls, but you have to be on the lookout for somebody that is making you comfortable, but not saying anything. And I always felt like the two traitors were doing that. And so I was also like, okay, that's what they're doing. And I was talking more than the two not more than Christian, but definitely more than Sheree. And I was always just like, guys, I feel like you're always looking for the people that are talking the most. And honestly, I was like trying to deflect it from Kate. Because I was like, why is everybody going after Kate so much? Because I started to like Kate, honestly.
I love Kate.
I started to really like Kate, and Kate and I were like talking a lot. I was having conversations where she made me laugh, like I know people have their whatever, but Kate was like cracking me up. Like I really got along with Kate.
Yeah.
And so then I was like sitting there, I'm like, why is everybody just going after Kate? Like, and if I was a faithful and I wasn't like salivating at like, wow, this is perfect, everybody's just so off going after Kate, I would have been sitting there being like, why Kate? Because like everything that Kate was doing logically to me
made no sense
wasn't looking like, why would a traitor do that?
Exactly.
And like, I didn't see Kate as this like crazy strategic mastermind that was doing it to try to throw people off as a traitor. I was like, guys, like, are you not seeing that this is just Kate? Like, this is who Kate is. Kate, you're not listening to her. You're attacking her every day. So guess what? Now she's pissed off and now she doesn't care. She's going to throw stuff back at you any chance she gets. Does that mean she's a traitor? No. That means that like she's at the end of her wits right now and she doesn't know how to communicate with any of you. Cause like I had no problem talking to Kate, none at all.
I mean, the logic is the same. Like you said that just because you're nice to them or whatever, that doesn't mean they're faithful. And just because someone's acting crazy or being dramatic doesn't mean they're a traitor, right?
Exactly.
It goes both ways.
Cause like Kate going after people, like, and everybody thinking she was a traitor because of the way that she did it, people wanted her to be a traitor. Quentin was doing the same exact thing as Kate. Much more the way that he speaks, the way that he holds himself, the way that he talks to everybody else, the way that he made everybody else feel, it was like, ultimately, if you take their personalities out of it, they were both doing the same thing. Except Quentin just thought it was Kate. Kate never thought it was Quentin. So it's like the two of them were doing the same thing. Ultimately, like, getting people to vote a certain way, and not even their own doing. Like Quinton wasn't running around to people to be like, vote this way. Quinton would just speak and be like, this is what I'm going with. This is what I think. And because nobody else was doing that, or maybe not to the extent that they would get behind stuff that Quinton was saying and vote in that direction, or stuff that Kate was saying and vote in that direction. And so it was too much of that. Not a lot of people were kind of like looking around and trying to be like, okay, is this traitor behavior, or is this just Kate behavior? Or is like, take Kate's name out of it. Is this traitor behavior, or is this just this person's personality? Mm-hmm. Which for me, it was like, Christian. That's why I felt it was easy to dial down Christian, because I'm like, I just think that's his personality.
Yeah. Yep.
Where in the beginning it was, no, that's a traitor. And then it was like, well, I think it's his personality. But there were other things about Christian that I was like, is nobody else noticing this? Like, this kid pops into a room every time and directs conversation. Like, I'm like, Quinton wasn't doing that. Kate wasn't doing that. Kate would be by herself. Like, you would have to seek out Kate. Like, Kate wasn't trying to jump into rooms to like to have conversations with people. The people that she liked,
rooms.
She would be out. And so I'm like, do you think that, like, I was like, guys, watch what's going on here. I'm like, nobody's even watching. But, I just felt it was, again, it's easier said than done. It's hindsight 2020, obviously, every single time.
Yeah.
And when you're in that house as a faithful, your head's in scrambled eggs, because they were all dealing with the tax of it and the stress of it in their own way. And so that also jars your perception of who could be a traitor, who could be a faithful, because when you're in there and your head is scrambled and you don't know what to believe, the people that you're most comfortable with, that make you feel the most comfortable, are the ones that kind of you'll go with, which I think is just human nature. I think that's like, if you can understand the psychology of like human behavior and why people do what they do, you probably will be able to peg the traitors immediately. If you can understand body languages and stuff like that. That's why I felt like I'm pretty good with human behavior. I'm pretty good at picking up on that stuff. Like, I'm definitely not just like, oh, I'm going to go along with the group. And if I was a faithful, I felt like that would have been more the route, but I don't know how that would have made me last. They may have been like, he can get people swayed. And if he gets people to sway to one of us, the same thing that I was thinking. Like Reza was like, he's super likable. He is going to get people on his side and he can sway them. That's somebody that I think like is going to be a problem. So it's like, if that was the case with me, I could have went home right away as a faithful.
It's hard to say too, because even with a different cast, it could have been different. It's like these specific people, this happened to go that way, but like, and I think the same thing for, like I said, if there's a season 2, I think it's going to be a little different. People like you and Rachel and I'm trying to think, sorry, people have played competitions before, competition reality shows. Were you guys thinking about, I mean, you were a traitor, so it's a little different, but like the meta game of it all, like, okay, well, production would definitely put in this amount of traitors, this amount of women, this amount of men, celebrity. Were they thinking, okay, production, like how we come into breakfast and stuff? I know you're a traitor, so you had a different perspective, but like, was anyone thinking those things?
I think somebody that was thinking in those terms was Kyle. Okay. I think he was starting to try, he was like rationalizing it in a sense of, okay, if they're not there, he was assuming, obviously, he was like, they're not going to make it all reality people. They're not going to make it all non-reality people. So there's gotta be bits and pieces in there. He's like, there's going to be a female, there's going to be a male. And he's like, what could the third one be? But he was going, again, Kyle was super strategic, like so strategic.
That's and so funny because we watched him on Summer House. And
Kyle, it's such a misperception of Kyle on Summer House, because it's like, nice this dude is a grinder and works all week to let loose on the weekends. Like, and that's why I connected with him, because I was like, dude, I feel like when I watched Kyle on Summer House, I'm like, this guy is hilarious. Like, obviously there's stuff that goes on that people like and dislike, but I'm like, I would get along with that guy. Cause like, I understand when the weekend comes, like I'm a different person than I am during the week. I'm out with my friends. Like, I'm just a different guy. This is being captured for him. And that's all they really show. But there's like, he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He's intelligent. Like, there's so much more to Kyle. And it was starting to come out on the Traitors because he was strategically trying to like figure it out. He wasn't just there to have a good time. He was getting pissed off that he couldn't figure out who the Traitors were. And so that's why I should have known that beforehand, but I was close with Kyle. So I was like, we were talking a lot. So I was like, the word vomit, like if I, again, that's why I say if I was sitting next to anybody else, I wouldn't have word vomited like that, because it would have been like, I'm not that comfortable with you. Like I was comfortable with Kyle. But he is an extremely intelligent person that obviously you don't really see on Summer House, because he's just there to party. He's having a good time.
Yeah. He's fun. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I love Kyle.
Well, we'll wrap up, but I just want to ask, watching the show, was it basically how you remember, just in terms of the edit and everything? Like, were you like, okay, they pretty much got everything, or was there anything missing that you wanted to talk about or anything like that?
No, they did. Again, I was saying this on the Winter Circle when we were talking about it. It's like they do a good job of, I mean, it's an hour episode, and you think about the structure of it. There's the breakfast, there's the competition, there's the round table, then the Traitors have to be in an episode, or they push it to the next episode. It's like there's so much that they have to put in there that's filmed all day long. So there's obviously stuff that's not there, but again, it's like these producers are creating a storyline, and there's a reason why they're producing a show that's on Peacock. Like they know what they're doing. And so for the most part, I felt like they told the story the right way, the way that it was happening. Because at the end of the day, what I watched in the series was like, just, it felt like what was happening. Like the faithfuls were kind of confused. The Traitors were kind of navigating it. Like when slip ups happen, stuff will get called out, and everybody obviously can watch it back and be like, no, I was calling it for what it was. But it's like, how many times can you self-reflect that you went into the diary room and mentioned like 6 different names? So like producers were probably like, okay, this person did mention that, but like, are we going to use that, or are we going to just like not use it? Like, I feel like it doesn't give everybody the individual edit that maybe they wanted, but for the most part, they told the story exactly for what it was.
It's interesting. You don't like, you got to wait to watch it, as opposed to Big Brother. You're like living it, and then
I don't, and then you don't. Like, I was like watching it, and I was like, yep, I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. Like this was like 10 episodes, but I'll tell you what, I never watched back Big Brother and was like, oof. Like this one, I was like very anxious 2 days before. It was like, it was a lot. I was like, oh man, I don't know that I want to watch this. And it's not even that I didn't win. Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with it. And I think a lot of people, that's where the adversity thing comes up. It's like, oh, he didn't win. So adversity, first time you see it, it's like, one, you're watching a show and have no idea adversity that I've gone through, one, in my life, which has gotten me prepared for these shows. And two, it's like when you're going through this, it's not losing that bothers me. Like winning and losing, I'm a winner. I like winning, but it's like losing doesn't make me immediately go, experience ruined. It's like the struggle of this one was really hard to watch back. Like watching it back, knowing how bad I struggled each day there, like how there's like stuff that I really can't mention, but it was just like, I was struggling where like you come off and I was, there's people that you can speak to coming off of Big Brother, and they give a ton of resources. And I never was like, but like the strain from this show put me in a position where I was like, I gotta talk. I don't understand what I was going through. Like, why was this so hard on me? Like, why was I struggling every night? Like, why couldn't I sleep? Like, I would wake up like with knots in my stomach. I was like, what was going on in my head that was going through the rest of my body? Mm-hmm. I was like, I need to figure this out. Like, I need to talk to somebody about this. Because there was obviously struggles on Big Brother. Like, there were times where there were people that I had to nominate that I just didn't want to, and that hurt. But it's like, I got over it. Like this, I couldn't get over. Like, I just couldn't get over it. Like what I was doing every day. And it was like really weighing on me, but
could have been a million things. I mean, you also are so used to playing Big Brother. You've been in that house probably for what, 200 days. So like playing a completely different game, learning the rules, like that too, it can be like, wait, I'm not in the Big Brother house. Like, you kind of have to adjust. I'm sure.
It was, I think a lot of it was the competition aspect of it seemed to have been removed. Cause like we were competing as a group to put money in the pot, which ultimately, obviously everybody wants the money in the pot. Yeah, exactly. So we're all going to compete and we're doing it together. But it was like the competition aspect of it where it was like, I can compete to get myself into a position where then it's like, it can benefit me, was like almost removed. So it almost seemed like the entire game was manipulation and lying.
Right.
There was not a competition aspect to it other than there's a winner at the end. And so like, I don't know if that's part of it. It was like, I think what I was saying before, it's like, I like being in a group. Like I love the aspect of alliances on Big Brother, where there's people that I'm naturally gravitating towards and then end up working with, and then end up trusting and like building a rapport and knowing that I'm not in this alone. Where Traitors made me feel a lot of times like I was playing this game alone, because it just didn't feel like I had the team aspect of it that I think I needed. And like, now you add all the moral things that are coming in where I felt I was like putting the burden on myself a lot. It just was a lot. Psychologically, it's a lot. So people have to be prepared. If they want to play this game, it is not a walk in the park, but it is an exhilarating experience. Like and in the experience that I had, I still say it's like, I would do it again.
You would.
It's crazy. You're like a glutton for punishment. It's like, you just love it. It's tough mentally, but it's like, you got to find what's right for you. And honestly, like maybe if I do it again, I'd be like, please don't make me a traitor, but I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask, Cody. Like, are you done with reality competitions, or you're like, all right, I'll try another one?
It really depends. It really depends. It depends on the circumstance. There's a lot of other stuff, going on. Christy and I obviously have our wedding coming up, and I've not been shy about it. Like I say it all the time. Like I want to get married. I want to have a family.
Yeah.
I want to have something that's like more consistent. Like I want to be doing something consistently that helps me have my family. Like there's not like a dollar amount that I care to have. Like I just want a family.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I want some consistency in my life. And a lot of these shows don't bring that. It's like, oh, come on the show. Do you want it? It's like, all right, am I going to get a call for another show or am I not?
I mean, most people, they have to quit their jobs. Like it's hard to do this.
It's not easy to do it. And it's also like unnerving, because it's like, when's the next? It's like, yeah, it's like being an actor almost, but you're not an actor. We're not acting, but it's like that same lifestyle. Yep. Yeah. When am I going to get it? When am I going to get an audition? When am I going to get in front? Am I going to book the audition? Because like a lot of times they call you and then maybe they go a different route. It's like the inconsistency of it is really, really tough. And honestly, the psychological aspect of these games has been tough. Like, I think what I'm learning is that I would really get into like interviewing and talking to these people about their experiences, and like maybe like hosting something where the psychological aspect is out. That's kind of the route that I would love to go, because doing these shows where ultimately the lying is there, and now watching it, I've done it multiple times. Every time I do it, I say I'm done because of the strain that it puts on me. It's like, it's not, I don't see myself as like the recurring person, because it's like, I don't know that how my, like, do you keep up with that? Like
you won, like, you don't feel like you don't have anything to prove to yourself or anyone else,
And that's the thing is like, and you had to go into this show cutthroat, especially as a traitor. And I didn't go in with that mindset at all. Like I went in with like, I just won Big Brother. Like the people that had anything they had to say about me, you can still say it, but I just won the show. And this one was more like, ooh, this is a cool experience. I have no idea what's going to come of this. I don't even know if I'm going to be good at it. And I came to realize that very quickly. So.
Well, tell I guess the viewers, like you have a podcast, The Winner Circle. Mm-hmm. You guys are going to be also talking about the episodes. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, so we're doing, we have to be very limited on what we talk about, how we talk about it, but we're going to be kind of breaking down each episode of the season of Traitors. We already put episode 1 out there. And so we're going to like slowly drip them out as the season progresses, kind of naturally, because it's hard because the whole show was dropped on Peacock, 10 episodes, but it's still streaming out there and there's still people that are watching it. So we don't want to just like put it all out there immediately. So make sure if you guys are interested in kind of hearing my perspective on it, and then hearing Tiffany and Derek break down what they saw as viewers, we're going to be covering that on the Winner Circle. We drop it on YouTube, and we're also on all your podcast streaming platforms.